Everybody, and welcome to another episode of Just PlayStation 5 Talk. I want to cover quite a few things: the system, my thoughts, the games, what I'm currently playing, etc. etc. Just my overall thoughts on collecting as well. So bear with me as we talk, or I should say, spend a few minutes talking about the PlayStation 5. I think the best way for me to describe the PlayStation 5 in this generation is that it's misunderstood, very unappreciated, and pretty much kind of does things on its own where people don't necessarily give it the credit, but it just keeps on producing. Yes, I know that the CEO and upper leadership kind of had a vision, a really poor vision of making and developing live service games. But that leadership has now been removed, and honestly, when you look at the overall content of the PlayStation 5, even with those obstacles, even with those resources that were wasted in, with the likes of Concord and who knows whatever else, you can still sort of look at the PlayStation 5 as an overall success and an overall high level of quality when it comes to not only first-party games, but also and definitely third-party games. When I say it doesn't get the recognition, let's just take an example, right? If you're going to talk about a game like a platformer, the best platformer out there, almost 90% of the folks out there are going to recommend either Super Mario Odyssey, Galaxy, maybe even a few will say Donkey Kong Bonanza, but there's not a whole lot that are going to recommend Astrobot as the top platformer out there. In my opinion, it's not even close. Astrobot has set the new standards for platforming. It's on the PlayStation 5, and yet there's not a lot of recognition for it. It kind of does its own thing. It kind of beats to its own, marches to its own drum, and basically doesn't get the recognition. And there's several examples like that. You can look at Horizon, both games in the Horizon series. They don't get really appreciated as much. You can talk about God of War. Yes, the first game got a lot of love. The second one, which in my opinion is way better, at least once again, my opinion, does not give the love or recognition. You can look even further down. Let's talk about some of the other exclusives that Sony was able to secure for the console, at least timed exclusives. You have the likes of Final Fantasy XVI, which I know have since been, ported to other consoles. A fabulous RPG. You have something like Stellar Blade, a great first-person, old school hack and slash style of game that was really, really well made. It was personally one of my favorites of the generation, yet nobody really mentions it. I love the PlayStation 5. And there's several more examples that we can look into and sort of say, how come this console doesn't get the recognition it deserves? Even something like Gran Turismo, the latest one on PS5, is absolutely stunning. Yet, it's either the Mario Kart show, it's either Forza, or, ironically, I guess the only thing Xbox has. But hey, we're not talking about Xbox here. But yeah, the PlayStation 5 has been easily one of my favorite consoles to play, not only to play, but also to collect for. Now that the Switch 2 is out, a lot of these game key cards are happening. I'm moving over to the PS5. I don't want a game key card. I want to collect these games in their physical format. Yes, you have to download patches and stuff. I accept that, but I will not pay for a piece of plastic that has absolutely nothing on it. But speaking of the PS5, one of the few games that, or I should say series that I've really been enjoying on it is the Star Wars series, our franchise, if you will. A lot of different publishers and developers have put their hat into the mix, and I think like a game like Star Wars Outlaws is a very once again, here's the theme, misunderstood, misrepresented game. I think this game is absolutely fabulous. I know people talked about the early shortcomings and how stealth was a little too stealthy. I don't know. I played the game. I'm actually playing the game right now, and I am in love with it. It feels like an Assassin's Creed slash what's the shooter franchise? It's I'm blocking right now. But yeah, it feels like an Assassin's Creed game, and I love it. I think the Assassin's Creed games are really, really good. And this Star Wars Outlaw, the atmosphere, they 100% nail it. It feels like you're playing an actual Star Wars game, a lot more grounded in the overall lore of the universe, or the galaxy, I should say, rather than, the politics, the top level politics and management, which is kind of what the main Star Wars series is about. This is a lot more grounded in reality, a lot of factions, a lot of crime, some really cool stuff. But yeah, Star Wars Outlaw, amazing. Yeah, the shooter that I was thinking of is Division. It feels like the shooting mechanics is taking out of the Division, and it feels great. But you also have games like, I know a lot of people hate this, sports games. I've been playing a lot of EA FC 25 on the PlayStation 5, and what an amazing time. I know there are ports for other systems out there as well, but for me, it's just a game or a series or a franchise that has worked for me on the PS5. I've been playing sports games, specifically NFL, NHL, basketball, and soccer, I guess all of them, on the PS5, and I love it. I do get the new iterations every single year. Oh, let's not forget about the show. I do get the new iterations every year on Black Friday. As a matter of fact, I just got the 26 versions now, and I can't wait to play them. I love playing them on the PS5. A great showcase for sports titles, and in my opinion, another series of games that, for whatever reason, people hate. I don't know why. But there's some other big titles, like, for example, not big titles, we'll call them indie titles, that I really, really enjoy. Very underrated, like the Dark Pictures games. I know there was a new one just announced, and I beat The Devil in Me a while back, caught up to the series entirely, and I love those games. Choose your own adventure, your choices determine the outcome of who lives and who dies. Interesting story to tell, some solid voice acting, character development. I like it. I like horror games in general, and all of these games, The Devil in Me, Man of Medan, even some of the more exclusive ones like Until Dawn, they have just been perfect. I really, really enjoy them, and I can't wait for the next one that comes out, hopefully soon. And then you have, of course, the Game of the Year that's going to be, I think it's pretty clear and obvious that the Clear Obscure Expedition 33 is going to win Game of the Year this year. A perfect place to play it on the PS5. Now granted, I beat my version of this game on the Xbox Game Pass when I still had it. I got rid of Game Pass, but I loved, this particular experience, and I'm going to go back to it on the PS5. I want to get those trophies. Maybe I want to get the Platinum. I came really close to getting all achievements on the Xbox, but I think I can go for the Platinum here. And Clear Obscure Expedition 33, Game of the Year of 2025, is definitely well worth playing on your PS5. How about some more indie titles, like a game that nobody really talks about anymore, but is one of my personal favorites, Fort Solis. I know I've talked about this game before, and I absolutely love it. I am fascinated by astronomy, visiting different planets, colonizing. I know it's not going to happen in my lifetime because there are way, way too many obstacles for that to even occur. But I can live these sci-fi worlds that people create, and Fort Solis is such an amazing experience. I love it. It takes place on Mars. I played this game, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. And yeah, one of my favorite indie games ever. I am going to play Fort Solis again, but I think those are the types of experiences that you can really find and appreciate on the PS5. Games that nobody really talks about, that are just in abundance. A game like, for example, even some RPGs, right? We have Ys, so many Ys games on the PS5, including Ys 10 Nordics. An Ys game that I've been wanting to play for such a long time, but sadly just have not been able to do it. The last Ys game that I played and beat was on the PlayStation Vita, So that should probably tell you how long it's been since I played another Ys game. But if I'm going to play it, I want to play it on the PS5 where I can get the best possible frame rate, the best possible graphics, and maybe get some trophies along the way. Not looking to platinum a game like this, but still, you still want to play and experience the game in its best possible form when possible. I know there's a convenience factor with the Nintendo Switch, and I talk about the Switch all the time. I realize that, but certain games I want to play on the PS5. And a game like Ys is that perfect example of a game that I think would work better on the PS5. Another great series that has been quietly producing gems, or I should say 2 gems, is the Alan Wake series. Alan Wake 2 just came out. It came out a while ago, but it was just, put on the PlayStation Plus, the basic tier, not too long ago, and I want to go through that game. I played the original on the Xbox 360, I played the remake on the PS5, loved them both times, one of my favorite games. I've heard that Alan Wake 2 is very different than those, but I still want to play it, I still want to experience it, I still want to see what Alan Wake 2 has to offer. And there's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to be playing it very, very soon, hopefully by the end of this year. But yeah, Alan Wake is just another one of those games that sort of is just on the PS5 waiting for people to try out and play. And I hope they do. I hope they do play it because it is a fabulous series, especially if you like horror. A game that I beat maybe not too long ago, after a long time, was Metaphor ReFantasio. Now this is a game that I personally didn't enjoy as much, but it's there on the PS5 for people to enjoy and play. You guys may like it a lot more than I did. I didn't dislike it, but Metaphor is one of those games that I think is not as well implemented or done as the Persona series. It's not even close in my opinion. But still, a lot of people love this game to death. It was one of their favorite RPGs ever played, and you cannot deny the overall scope, polish, and quality of Metaphor, even if it didn't work for me. It took me about 100 hours to complete, so I must have enjoyed something to have played this game for about 100 hours plus. But yeah, the PS5 has sort of been a console of choice in the background. Back in the day, I really missed out when it came to the PlayStation 1, very first console of Sony. I played some games on it eventually, but really my foot into the PlayStation world was the PS2, one of my favorite consoles. I really, really loved the PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 4 is outstanding, probably one of the best consoles that Sony has ever made, both hardware-wise and software-wise. Then you have the PS5, which is just a better version of the PS4. Yeah, the PS5 technically would be the best console ever, but if you look back at what the PS4 did as far as exclusives are concerned, I think there's no competition. But anyways, you look at the handheld gaming market. The PSP was fairly popular for me, but the Vita is where I played a lot of games too. So Sony has always been a part of my DNA. I love playing Sony games, I love collecting Sony games, and the PS5 is just another one of those consoles that has quietly been sort of just appreciated by myself, but I never really show that love, in the form of YouTube or whatever. So I just wanted to make a quick video on the PS5, give you some updates on the games that I am playing, games that I have been playing, some recommendations, why I love the PlayStation 5, and why I hope that this console has a lot more of a life, and even the PS6 that is rumored to come out sometime in 2027 or 2028 has physical media associated with it. If not, then just like I guess the Switch versus the Switch 2, it's going to be a console that I abandon very fast. I am an old school collector, so I like my stuff physically, but you can only do so much. I realize that it's an antiquated hobby, but what can you do? Anyways, the PS5. Love this console. Love the games. I love collecting for the system, and hopefully I can share a lot more of my thoughts in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys next time.